Do you ever feel like you're constantly doing something, yet your life isn't actually moving forward? Why do you keep reacting, explaining, and talking, but still feel out of control? What if the real thing holding you back isn't a lack of discipline, but the fact that you're giving your energy away every single day without realizing it? Most people believe that being active means being productive, that speaking more makes you stronger, that reacting quickly shows confidence. But the truth is, the more you scatter your attention outward, the weaker your control becomes. Stay until the end, because what you're about to discover is a quiet habit that separates those who drift through life from those who move with clarity, focus, and intention. This isn't theory. It's a principle practiced by Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. They didn't rely on noise or constant action. They mastered something far more powerful: control from within. And once you understand it, you won't be able to unsee it. Insight 1. You are leaking power through constant reaction. Most people think they're in control of their lives, but if you observe closely, they are reacting to everything around them. From the moment you wake up, your attention is already being pulled. Before your mind can think clearly, your hand reaches for your phone. Notifications, messages, news, opinions, each one taking a piece of your focus. It feels normal. It feels productive. But in reality, you've already lost control of your first hour, because you didn't choose your thoughts. They were chosen for you. This is where the problem begins. It's not just distraction. It's your habit of responding to everything as if it deserves your energy. Every notification gets attention. Every message gets a reply. Every opinion triggers a reaction. And slowly, you stop directing your life. You start reacting to it. At work, this becomes obvious. You're constantly interrupted. A message here, a meeting there, someone needing your time, someone pulling you into things that don't move your life forward. You move all day, but nothing feels complete. You're busy, but not effective. Active, but not progressing. And then there's something deeper. Talking. You talk about your plans before you act. You explain your ideas before they're ready. You defend yourself to people who never intended to understand you. You announce, you justify, you react. And every time you do that, you lose something invisible: energy, momentum, clarity. Because every word spoken too early takes away the power you needed to execute. This is what most people never see. Not all action creates progress. Not all communication creates value. Sometimes, it weakens you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. But most people reverse this. They check what others think before checking themselves. They react to situations before choosing their response. They seek validation before building internal certainty. That's not control. That's dependence. And dependence is where power disappears. Imagine this clearly. You wake up, you scroll for 30 minutes. You rush into your day. Now your mind is scattered. Your focus is broken. Your priorities are unclear. By the time you begin working, you're already reacting instead of leading. Repeat that every day. Weeks turn into months. Months turn into years. And one day, you realize something uncomfortable. You've been active the whole time, but you haven't truly moved forward. This is the trap of reaction. It doesn't destroy you instantly. It drains you slowly. Because when you react instantly, you don't think. And when you don't think, you follow patterns that were never chosen by you. That's why most people feel stuck. Not because they lack ability, but because they never created space to think. They never paused. They never asked, what actually matters? What do I control? What deserves my energy? Instead, They react, again and again. And that's how power leaks. Not in one big moment, but in hundreds of small reactions. Control is rare because it requires resistance. But every time you don't react, you reclaim a part of yourself. Every time you pause, you gain clarity. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you strengthen your focus. This is not weakness. This is discipline. And the moment you stop reacting to everything, you start reclaiming everything. If this hit home, comment number 1. Insight 2. Silence is not weakness. It is strategic power. Most people think silence means you have nothing to say. They assume if you're not reacting, you're being passive. But the truth is the opposite. Silence is control, because when you speak too early, you expose intentions before they are ready. When you explain too much, you weaken your position. When you react instantly, you give up control of your state. That's why silence is not weakness. It's discipline. Look at how most people communicate. They announce goals before taking action. They share struggles with people who can't help. They defend themselves to critics who already decided not to understand. It feels like progress. But it isn't. It's energy leaking. Every time you talk about what you will do, you reduce the drive to actually do it. Every time you explain yourself unnecessarily, you place your value in someone else's judgment. Every time you react emotionally, you hand over your control. Epictetus taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you respond that defines you. And sometimes, the strongest response is no response. Imagine this. Someone criticizes you. Your instinct is to defend immediately, but instead, you pause. You stay silent. You ask one question. Does this matter? If yes, you improve. If no, you ignore. Either way, you don't waste energy reacting. That pause is power, because in that moment, you are choosing, not reacting. Now apply this everywhere. Have a new goal? Build it in silence. Have an idea? Develop it before sharing. Facing criticism? Evaluate before responding. Feeling emotional? Observe before expressing. This is strategic silence, not avoiding life, but controlling how you engage with it. Seneca said the best cure for anger is delay. Delay creates space. Space weakens emotion. Space sharpens thinking. Space allows intention. And intention changes everything. Because when you stop reacting instantly, you start thinking clearly. When you think clearly, you act precisely. When you act precisely, you get results. Here's the paradox. The less you speak, the more your words matter. Because they are chosen. They are deliberate. They carry weight. The Stoic lesson is simple. Silence is not saying nothing. It's saying only what matters, and knowing when not to say anything at all. Because once you master silence, you stop giving your power away. Insight 3. Turning inward is where real control begins. There is a quiet shift that most people never notice. It doesn't happen when the world changes. It doesn't happen when life gets easier. It happens the moment you stop looking outward and start looking inward. Most people are trained to live externally. They watch what others are doing. They measure themselves against opinions. They react to what happens next. Their attention is always projected outward. And because of that, they never truly understand themselves. They don't question their thoughts. They don't examine their patterns. They don't reflect on their direction. They are informed, but not aware. And that's why clarity feels so rare, because clarity doesn't come from more input. It comes from stepping away from it. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He didn't just rule an empire. He ruled his own mind. He wrote to himself daily, not to impress others, but to correct himself, to observe his reactions, to refine his thinking, to bring his attention back inward, because he knew something most people ignore. If you don't examine your mind will run on autopilot, and autopilot is shaped by everything except you. Social pressure, past conditioning, repeated habits, all quietly directing your decisions. That's why people say they want one thing, but live in another direction, because they never stop to ask, what do I actually want? Instead, they follow urgency, they follow noise, they follow what feels immediate. But urgency is not importance, and noise is not direction. Picture this. You sit alone for a few minutes. No phone, no music, no distractions. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Your mind starts racing. Thoughts you've been avoiding begin to surface. Doubts, questions, realizations. This is where most people escape. They reach for distraction. They open an app. They return to noise. Because facing your own mind is difficult. But staying there is where your power begins. Because in that silence, you start to see clearly. You notice patterns you ignored before. You see how often you react instead of choose. How often you follow instead of lead. How much of your life is driven by habit, not intention. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That awareness changes everything. Because now, you have a choice. Continue reacting or start directing. This is what turning inward means. Not isolating yourself from the world, but becoming aware of how you engage with it. Epictetus taught that freedom begins when you understand what is in your control. And what is in your control is not the world. It's your thoughts, your actions, your responses. But you cannot control what you don't observe. And you cannot observe if your attention is constantly pulled outward. That's why inward focus is essential. When you begin practicing it, something shifts. You stop chasing every distraction. You stop reacting to every opinion. You stop comparing yourself constantly, because you finally have your own reference point, your own standards, your own direction. And with that comes clarity. You make decisions faster because you know what matters. You say no more often because you know what doesn't. You act with intention because you understand yourself. And here's the deeper transformation. You stop needing validation because you're no longer uncertain. You're no longer looking outward for approval. You already know where you stand. This is what real confidence looks like. Not loud, not performative. Quiet, stable, internal. Seneca warned that the greatest waste of life is living unconsciously, and that's what most people are doing. They are not choosing their path. They are following patterns, reacting, repeating, drifting. But the moment you turn inward, you interrupt that cycle. You step out of autopilot. You take back control, not of everything, but of the only things that matter. Your mind, your actions, your direction. And when that happens, everything starts to align. Your actions match your intentions. Your choices reflect your values. Your life moves in a direction you actually chose, not one you fell into. That is the real power of turning inward. It doesn't change the world around you. It changes how you move within it. And that changes everything. Insight 4. Quiet execution. Build in silence. Let results speak. There is a final shift, and this is where everything becomes real. It's not about what you know. It's about what you do, consistently, without needing to prove it to anyone. Most people are addicted to expression. They talk about their plans. They explain their goals. They share intentions before they've taken real action. And in that moment, it feels like progress. It feels like movement. It feels like something is happening. But nothing has actually changed, because talking creates the illusion of progress. without the substance behind it. This is the hidden trap. The more you speak about what you will do, the less pressure you feel to actually do it. You release the tension that was meant to push you forward, and over time, you build a pattern of announcing instead of executing. That's why so many people stay stuck. They are always describing change, but rarely living it. Quiet execution breaks that pattern, because when you stop announcing your intentions, you remove the illusion completely. You are left with only one thing: the work. No validation, no early praise, no external reward. Just your effort and your discipline. And that's where real growth begins. Epictetus focused on action over words, because identity is not something you declare, it's something you build. Repeatedly. But most people try to reverse that. They try to become something by talking about it, instead of proving it through consistent behavior. Picture this. You have a goal. Instead of posting it, you keep it private. You wake up each day and work on it quietly. No announcements, no explanations, no need for anyone to know. At first, it feels uncomfortable. You don't get encouragement. You don't get attention. You don't get validation. And your mind will resist that. It will push you to share, to show progress, to receive recognition. But if you stay with it, something powerful happens. Your focus sharpens, because your energy is no longer divided. You're not splitting attention between doing and talking about doing. You are fully invested in execution. And that changes everything. You move faster, because there is no distraction. You think clearer, because there is no noise. You act stronger, because there is no leakage. Every bit of your energy goes into progress. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to ignore what doesn't matter, and performing for others does not matter. Building something real does. Now look at the pattern most people follow. They start something new. They tell everyone. They receive attention. That attention feels like progress, but it's not, because your brain rewards the announcement, as if the work has already been completed. So the motivation drops, the urgency fades, and slowly, execution stops. This is why so many goals never become reality, not because they were impossible, but because they were spoken too early. Quiet execution protects your momentum, because the only reward you receive is real progress, and real progress builds real momentum. Step by step, day by day, action by action, until one day there is nothing left to explain, because the results are undeniable. And here's the deeper shift. When you reach that level, you don't feel the need to announce anything anymore, because you've changed. You're no longer chasing attention. You're focused on alignment. Your actions match your intentions. Your effort matches your goals. Your identity matches your behavior. Seneca warned that imagination can trick you into feeling progress, and talking feeds that illusion. You describe success. You visualize it. You feel it. But you don't build it. Quiet execution removes that escape. It forces you into reality, into discipline, into repetition, into action. And that's where transformation happens, not in what you say once, but in what you do every day. This is the final lesson. Stop announcing. Start building. Stop explaining. Start executing. Stop performing. Start becoming. Because in the end, people don't respect what you say. They respect what you've done. And when your results speak, you don't have to. Everything you've just heard comes down to one simple truth. You don't need more information. You don't need more motivation. You need control over your attention and your actions. Right now, the world is constantly pulling you outward. Distractions, opinions, noise, everywhere. But the moment you choose to turn inward, focus on yourself, and stay silent. Everything begins to change. You think clearer. You act with intention. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. And slowly, you become someone who moves with control, not reaction. Before you leave, comment number 1. Subscribe to the channel if you're serious about mastering your mind. Like this video if this message shifted your perspective. And remember, real power is quiet. Real growth is invisible. And real results speak for themselves. Choose one of the videos on the side and continue building the version of yourself most people never become.